Hi, Gemini Sun and Rising. Welcome to your December 2025 Astro Update. It's Rena here. Well. So, last month of 2025, how was 2025 for you? I can say pretty decisively that it has been a very intense year. For me, I can't speak for anybody else though. So now we're in the last month of it. I'm actually recording this in the first week of, well, starting in the second week of November. So November still has to unfold. But I am going to mention a transit that's happening at the end of November because it's the very last day. So for all practical purposes, it's basically a December transit. And that is that Venus is going into your opposite sign of Sagittarius on the 30th of November. The seventh house, where Sag is for you, is the house of relationships. And these are, the obvious one is a partner, a husband, a wife, a domestic partner. But it can be one-on-one friendships. It can be business partners. And Venus is very harmonious here or anywhere Venus goes. But Venus can also be about money. So I could see like a business partner, even, maybe it turns romantic. Venus is also about, love and things like that. So in the seventh house, the seventh house can also be legal matters. So if you see any kind of financial gain from legal matters, and it's connected to your public, I forgot what it's public relations, but there was a term that I saw used about it that I saw, oh, that's interesting, because I always associated that with like the 10th house, because that's your public image or your that's your status. But yeah, I think it had something to do with kind of like your popularity or something like that. So for some people, not just talking about it from an egoic standpoint, but if it's something that you need or that is very helpful for you to promote yourself, like if you're in the entertainment business, or even like if you're in social media, to have a bigger following or something like that. That could be how that plays out. And Venus here can be something where there's a lot of magnetism, and that could increase your popularity. On the 4th of December, that is, we have a full moon at 13 degrees of Gemini. Of course, Gemini is another air sign. I mean, I said it's another air sign. It's you. This is your full moon. I think I was thinking about, the seventh house is ruled by Libra, and I was thinking for a minute about Libra. Yeah, this is your full moon, Gemini. 13 degrees. So if you're Gemini rising and your rising sign is 14 degrees of Gemini, this will be in your 12th house, not your first house. And so, but the interesting thing about that is that whether it's in your 12th or your first house, it could have similar effects. Full moon can bring awareness about something, and the 12th and first houses are both aspects of you. One is your soul, which is the 12th, which is kind of that eternal part of you, and the first house is your persona, this lifetime, your body, your appearance, that kind of thing, yourself in the temporary version of you. That can give you some kind of visibility that you don't normally have in the first house. In the 12th house, I would say it'd be more like insight or a spiritual download of which is basically just like a revelation that you have that is coming from the higher realms about maybe even self-destructive patterns. The 12th house can be addictions, escapism, and anything Neptunian, Piscean that are it's called the house of undoing. Doesn't that sound very ominous? Because it's the ways that we trip ourselves up. And you may be wishing to release this, whatever this is for you. It may feel like it has been a burden. It's been something that isn't what you want it to be. And this can be a good time. And even in the first house, you can be releasing something that you might tend to do. Maybe releasing a way that you express yourself through how you dress. That you no longer need that thing to feel like you are an individual. That, you feel like maybe it is holding you back in some way. On the 10th, Neptune turns direct at a late degree of Pisces. I believe it's 29 degrees. I forgot to write down the degree. I think it's 29 Pisces. So this is your area of career. And Saturn also was retrograding too. Saturn, I'm going to say it in the present tense because of when I'm recording it, goes direct on November 27th, and then Neptune goes direct on December 10th. So both of these planets in your 10th house are very significant because they each have their own function, their own role to play. With Saturn, it is about your discipline. How much do you want to succeed? And are you just looking for a quick road to the top, or are you willing to work at it? You may have had to kind of rethink this a little bit, because there might have been some, when Saturn went into that 10th house, and this was back when, like a few years ago, actually, because it actually went into Aries earlier this year. But when it went into your 10th house a few years ago, you may have been like very serious about making your mark on the world or increasing your influence. And maybe you have met with some kind of roadblock. And with Neptune retrograding, it can be disillusionment. Maybe even like doubting that you made the right decision to go into a certain field. Maybe you felt like it was the end all be all, and now you're kind of, I'm not even all that interested in this thing anymore. It can feel rather uncomfortable, is a good way of putting it, because you may feel as though you sunk a lot of energy into something and you didn't necessarily get that payoff. But it doesn't mean that you will be abandoning a certain career. It may just be elements of it. Maybe you feel like you have to do things more slowly, that you can't expect to get a promotion as quickly as you would hope for. But I think it's good that Neptune is turning direct, because it's giving you your idealism back. The very next day, on the 11th, your ruler Mercury goes into Sagittarius. And so now we're talking about that 7th house again. Mercury in the 7th can be negotiations. Maybe there's something going on between you and an employer, but it could be making wedding plans and calling up the caterer It can be, anything where you're communicating something that is connected to a partnership. Mercury can be legal documents or documents in general. And whether it's a wedding certificate or a birth certificate, it could be any kind of thing that is legal and that you need to, uh, deal with if it's connected to legal matters that you need to prove things. On the 15th, Mars goes into Capricorn, and now we're talking about the 8th house. This will intensify with other planets going in later in the month and into January. Mars has not been in this house for quite a while, longer than usual, because of the retrograde last December. So you really are seeing fresh energy in this house related to Mars. And it could be in some cases combative. There could be situations where you're fighting with other people about shared resources. And so, in other words, like inheritances, or if you're getting divorced, you and your partner's assets, or what you brought into the relationship, or what you should take out of the relationship. There can be like a strong desire to reform yourself, to reinvent yourself. When Mars is in the 8th house, this is the house of transformation. But it's not going to be superficial, like changing your hair. I will say that full moon in Gemini, that could be something where you're letting go of something appearance-wise, but this is more on the inside. So some kind of new way of approaching life, or maybe it is self-improvement, but it's like at a very deep level. And I think it might even connect with spirituality. It's like what we call personal alchemy. On the 19th, we have a new moon at 28 degrees of Sagittarius, again in the 8th house, again in the 7th house. And there are new developments with partnerships. For some, this can be that this is when you decide to tie the knot. I think I've known more than one person, but at least one person who got married on New Year's Eve. And I thought that was a very interesting time to get married. But this may relate to legal matters as well, and there's new developments there. There can be new opportunities for you to promote yourself. On the 21st, the sun goes into Capricorn, 8th house. 24th, Venus goes into Capricorn, 8th house. So the sun here is just simply that you are becoming, in this certain period of time, much more of a deep thinker, more scorpionic, more emotional, as far as a Gemini person can be emotional. But then with Venus 3 days later on Christmas Eve in this sector, there could be money that is connected to other people that is you either find out about, or during this transit you receive. Also becoming more intimate, meaning emotional. Not emotionally available and deep with your partner can be Venus and Capricorn as well. Okay, that's what I have for you. I hope that this resonated. If you would like a private reading, I have package deals. I do love readings, career readings, natal chart interpretations, tarot readings. You can find out more information at the link below. Thanks for listening. Bye.